All right, and welcome. We now welcome on Spencer Sand, the co-founder, or sorry, not co-founder, the founder and CEO of OCAP Games and Moonbirds and Vibes and all things. You got a lot on your plate, Spencer. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How you been doing?
Good, good. It's really fun to be interviewing you in this context. We've known each other for years at this point. I think the first time we met was the first VCon back in
there's this origin
Minneapolis.
story too, which is that you were introduced to me as Pickle, and so in my head and my phone context, to me you're Pickle, and only later did I learn that like basically no one calls you that, and so I would
So
reference
funny.
you as Pickle, and people would be like, "What?"
That's
But
so.
you'll always be Pickle to me.
I appreciate it. I still have a few people like Vinny Hager and the like that like reach out and call me Pickle to this day. And for those wondering why, my PFP is a pickle. It's a different pickle back then. It's still a pickle. So that's
Different
the
Pickle.
reason
Actually, I'm
behind
not
it.
even sure I knew that lore.
It's a different pickle. Yeah. So I had sold that pickle before I joined the team. And then I was like, all right, now that I joined, like I need a new pickle. And Burnt Toast had one in his collection that I spent roughly 6 months negotiating with him to finally let me pry it from his hands. He's like, it's my favorite one in the collection. And so it took a lot of work of like, hey man, I'm going to be here. It's going to be on the profile. Like it's going to be on the timeline every day. Like do us a solid. So yeah, we're back and ready to rock.
Sweet. Well, congratulations.
But cool, man.
on securing your Grail Pickle.
Thank you. The Grail has been secured. Lot to talk about. Maybe we start kind of in the beginning of that chance encounter a few years ago, because I'd love for the audience to hear a little bit more about your background prior to OCAP Games, the fund that you raised, and really the genesis behind that.
Yeah, so I've got like kind of a weird path in life. I didn't go straight to college from high school. I used to be a competitive fencer, and I used to do like World Cups and Grand Prix for the U.S. in fencing. Was doing tech startup stuff. Ended up going to University of Chicago. Got an economics degree. I had I sold one of my companies to another company. Ran that company. We raised a bunch of money. Kind of did that whole tech world thing. When the pandemic happened, kind of just was hanging out, venture investing, was part of a group called Lofty Ventures. It was mostly our own capital that we were investing. We had an angel syndicate, and was on Clubhouse a bunch, and heard a bunch of people making ape sounds in Clubhouse spaces, and bought some monkey JPEGs, bought a Bored Ape for like 2.80, sold it for like 3.8 a week later, being like, I'm the best trader ever. Obviously that ran to 150 and got airdrops and whatever and sorts of stuff. But I ended up trading really well in that cycle. Bought artifact pre-qualified items, cool cats, kind of you name it. I traded it. Oni Force flipped that pretty well. And so did pretty well for myself in the 21 cycle. Probably one of the best decisions that I made then was just selling most stuff in December of 21. And along that same kind of timeline, like I'd been co-investing a lot. I've been doing a lot of like non-crypto venture deals largely in the Chicagoland area. Even though I was living in New York at the time, but having gone to Chicago, had some strong ties there, and crossed paths with a group called the Pritzker Group, which is the governor of Illinois' family office. We were friendly. They were like, hey, like we'd like some this crypto exposure. Like we're not sure. What kind of will you help us get that? And so that was the genesis of my first fund. Was really, really kind of in a good place about timing there. So I ended up taking that fund like right before FTX collapsed. FTX collapsed while we were almost all cash and got to deploy really aggressively. We were multiple of the top wallets on Blur in the beginning of Blur trading. Bought a lot of Pudgy Penguins. One of our most famous trades is, we bought the 3AC Pudgy Penguins like out of liquidation auction. Which was a great trade. It turned out, we did really well in the first and second Blur airdrops, mostly the first one. And have been really active kind of behind the scenes of the fund. Like our fund is called Spencer Ventures, and I tell all my investors it's just like whatever the fuck Spencer wants to do is what it is. And like it's important because like the space is kind of off-putting. So if you're off-put by that, like just you would have been much more off-put by what we did with the money. But the idea is like I think in crypto you have to stay really nimble, narrative shift, opportunity set shift. And so like and traditionally when you raise a fund, you're like very clear, like all right, we're gonna invest in these types of companies, and we're looking for these kind of opportunities. And when we raised our fund, we were generally like, in the cultural digital asset space, we're going to do trades, but not just like buy and hold for 10 years. Like we can do stuff like market making, liquidity providing, a type of trade that I think is very archetypal of the stuff that we do is when Blur launched, you could borrow against CryptoPunks at 70% LTV at a 0% interest rate, which was like, so we just borrowed against all our CryptoPunks, swapped the ETH to Lido staked ETH, earned a funding rate arbitrage. And then if CryptoPunks ever went below the borrow amount, we had a free put option to default, which is just like a very subtle thing, but it's like the most, I mean, why would you ever not do that? Like that sounds like a great idea, right? And so obviously, price in smart contract risk and there's reasons not to do it. But like a lot of what we get to do is really pricing risk, right? And making some of those more nuanced and interesting plays and operating between where others do. So, had the good fortune of doing quite well with the fund and continuing to do quite well with the fund. Got really close to the Pudgy team. Orange Cap Games started when we designed a trading card game for the Pudgy Penguins ecosystem called Vibes. And originally it was just supposed to be something that we just hand over to them, but really fell in love with the product that we designed and ended up spinning it out as a separate company, doing a venture raise, kind of doing that whole thing. We brought a physical and digital TCG to market in 8 months, which is nuts. The physical packs sold, I think, over $1.5 million since December, which is great for us in terms of just an early product launch. And then we were just so crazy about the quality of that. We didn't use a third party to manufacture it really. Like we went to the factories, our whole team were there, like overseeing all the process. And so we went really hard in the paint there. Garga is also someone who's been a friend of mine. And so, we were chatting for a while and moonbirds kind of kept coming up as this thing where I've always, one of the things that we held in the fund and traded a lot in the fund was moonbirds. I've always really loved what moonbirds were. I think art wise, they're really good. And just community wise was really strong. And in talking to Garga, it was just so clear that the right place for moonbirds wasn't to continue to be with Yuga. I think they wanted to find a new home for it. The community wanted a new home found for it, and what was really nice is I think having shipped the product like Vibes, we had earned a lot of trust with a lot of people just that we can make real stuff and ship real things, which, you would think would be probably a prerequisite for operating in an industry, but not this industry. There's a lot of people who do neither of those things. And so, put us in a really good position where people were excited to hear that we had, picked up Moonbirds. And so that's as of a week ago, Orange Cap Games acquired Moonbirds. We just announced the, seed raise for Moonbirds today. So I'm sure we'll get into all of that, but that's kind of a long meandering backstory. But yeah.
No, I think it's all really useful. Let's go all the way back to the beginning of Spencer Ventures, because I'm really curious to kind of dive into that piece of Spencer Ventures is just investing in whatever the fuck you feel like, basically of what you're able to needing to be very nimble with that. I think is really interesting, and I would be curious to know how your thesis has changed over the 5 years or so you've been investing, the different narratives you've seen.
Yeah, well, so one thing that was really compelling to me, early on when I was doing venture stuff was again, I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to math and things. So one thing that I had really been obsessed with was early stage investing, seed, pre-seed, right? And there's a lot of data you get from PitchBook and other places where if you look at the success rate from a pre-seed company getting to a seed, right? It's actually pretty high, and the multiples are also pretty good. And so from a pure just IRR perspective, pre-seed funds look really good on the books for periods of time, but historically, famously, pre-seed funds often don't return any capital ever, because despite the markups being good, actually going all the way to exit is such a long tail event that despite the ROI in aggregate being good, the chance that you've hit a zero is actually super high, right? And so, I was researching, well, what if you could sell half of your stake at Series A, Series B in the company? What would that do? And I ran a lot of Monte Carlo sims. So I modeled this on tens of millions of data points, given all the averages and distributions across each of the different success rates, failure rates, fundraises, multiples, et cetera. And it turns out that's just would have been if you were a pre-seed investor that exited half your stake in Series A, Series B, this should be the strongest returning strategy on Wall Street, on anywhere, right? The thing is, you just you can't, because when you look at private companies, it's very hard to sell secondaries or whatever, and oftentimes you do so at a discount. There's not really a liquid market for the asset that you own, even if it gets marked up, right? And so that was a part of what drew me to NFTs originally, was because they seemed to kind of occupy this space. Like everyone looked at NFTs and said, look, NFTs have less liquidity than tokens. Like this is a problem. But I looked at it and said, no, this is actually like great. Like NFTs have less liquidity than fungible tokens. Like this is the same thing of like a private to a public company, where like private companies have less liquidity than public companies. But like in private companies to public companies dichotomy, like it is none liquidity on private companies. But NFTs, although less liquid than tokens, do have some liquidity, and this is interesting, right? So like we really thought of like NFT investing as like trading that same arbitrage that we modeled with all the PitchBook data, and it turned out to be like a very profitable kind of concept. If you think about the market caps of NFTs as like the prices of rounds for a company, like running that playbook of like, you know, buying in at the pre-seed level. All right, when you get to seed Series A, like market cap, like de-risking some of it, like ends up being this really good trade that you can do in crypto in a way you couldn't do in traditional markets. So that was a lot of what drew me originally, right? That being said, like even in the time, like what gave me the ability to raise the fund was like in the time that I've been trading NFTs during that bull run, like I think it was like 8,000%, you know, realized in 8 months, which was nuts. Like that, but also like, is that replicable? I don't know. Like it was already pretty clear that like 2021 bull cycle, like the next cycle would be different, or like things would just be different over time, right? And so in a way we're like, you know, how do companies work? Well, companies have been around for much long, like generally, right? Like, but crypto companies is like a new thing and everything's changing all the time. And like, you know, like people don't talk about this enough, that like in the 21 cycle, one of the best trades you could have done is just bought Luna, right? Everyone thinks Terra Luna is like this terrible, no, it was a kingmaker trade to buy Luna, right? But like you're sitting there buying Luna being like, this is going to collapse, right? Like you're sitting there buying Ohm being like, I think the first line of like Ohm's documentation, if I remember correctly, was like Ohm is the purest form of Ponzi, right? And like everyone's like, sign me up. Like it was all this stuff that you're like, all right, can I make money trading this? Yes. Is this going to be around in 10 years? Definitely not, right? And so, you know, in that world, like you have to be more nimble. And you know, when a lot of investors are sort of crypto curious, right? They're like, you know, institutional folks, family offices, et cetera. Like they want some crypto exposure, but also like they're used to certain types of products. And so you see a lot of funds in the market come with a product that is very similar to what they're used to. All right, I'm going to buy and hold for 10 years because that's what a venture fund does, right? But like in my mind, it's like, all right, well, the benefit of crypto over venture is that we have a liquid asset. So why would I trade my liquid asset as though it were an illiquid asset? Like that doesn't make
right.
Like there must be benefits to it being liquid, and there also must be detriments. So if I'm going to take the detriments on, I need to also reap the rewards of the benefits, which is not as easy of a package to like sell to some institutional investors, but also like is why, you know, Spencer Ventures is still around as a fund. Like, you know, we're one of the top returning funds in crypto to my knowledge. And it's just because like, you know, strong opinions loosely held, right? Like we're not trying to go down with a ship. We're not trying to be an index of the industry. Like we understand that like, you know, some coins you don't hold forever. Some stuff you don't hold forever. Like you like, you know, if your only strategy in crypto is buy and hold, like you're going to be left holding the bag. Like that's just how it works.
Yeah. No, 100%. And to that end, I'm curious, like, are there any particular, like, I'd say like narrative bets that you're making in terms of where the cycle is going as you think about your portfolio and what you're looking for, what you're most excited about
right now?
Yeah.
So right now, I think is probably the most uncertain period I've seen in crypto since I've gotten in. There's some really obvious narratives, right? Like obviously, like we've been in the meme coin, you know, arena for months. Like this is, I think anyone who looks back in this prior cycle is like, all right, this was the cycle of Solana meme coins. This was also the cycle of people trading with lots of leverage and getting just liquidated, right? Like the amount of, one of the biggest narratives that we follow in this cycle is like KOL is being better able to monetize through ref links than in prior cycles, driving a lot more audience towards leverage trading. And like the reason that they get paid so well for the ref links is because that audience all gets liquidated, right? So I think this cycle is hallmarked by the fewest new entrants that are in profit by orders of magnitude over prior cycles, which is something that's like very interesting to watch happen. I think another hallmark of this cycle that we're watching in terms of a trend is the decreasing importance of Twitter. Twitter used to be like where everything happened in crypto, and it's, you know, it's just not quite as impactful as it used to be. We see, you know, Asian audience increasing relevance as a function of time. Korea hyper relevant to crypto right now. Even, you know, sort of like Chinese native exchanges, right? Although they're not technically in China, but like Chinese language audiences living wherever they are. Very important to crypto. US, very important to crypto, but also very uncertain, right? One thing I think that we're seeing, and this is at least how we're thinking about it, is like there will be regulatory clarity at some point in the near horizon, right? What does that mean? I don't know. Like if the US suddenly gave guidance on here's how you do an ICO in America, that changes everything. Like everything changes, right? Overnight. Is that where things are heading? I don't know. But it's not like outlandish to think that something of that order of magnitude of change in how regulatory environment in America works might be coming, right? So we're really closely looking at companies right now. This is, also what Orange Cap Games is, of like companies that are in America that do not have a fungible token yet, but have some sort of relevance. Like there's just not that many of that kind of company. And like, I think that kind of company has the potential to eat really well when there is better regulatory guidance coming, which seems like it's coming, right? That being said, also like meme coins seem to be losing some steam right now. Overall, I think that's a fair thing to say. Fartcoin probably is like the winner of the cycle in terms of memes. But like, I don't think there's an obvious next narrative. Like it's not like, oh, like, and there wasn't last time either. Like when NFTs became less prevalent, it wasn't like, oh, meme coins are next. I mean, obviously some people will tell you, oh yeah, like I had this vision, I knew that. Like, great. If you're psychic, like I'm sure you could have figured that out, but I'm just telling you like it wasn't obvious. Right. And so I don't think there's an obvious narrative right now, which is also why I think like the other thing that at least we're trying to do at Orange Cap Games with moonbirds is like platform build, right? Like if we want to look back retroactively of like who were the biggest beneficiaries, like companies coming into this cycle, who are the biggest beneficiaries of meme coins, it was like, I think 2 camps of people. Like camp 1 was people who put themselves in a position to launch a meme coin, right? Like I think of Pudgy Penguins as having done that really well, right? Like they had this huge platform. Did they start out to launch a meme coin? No, but like they have one of the largest platforms in crypto. There's a meme coin like arena happening. Like they're well positioned, right? Number 2 is going to be like people who build infrastructure or whatever around like that, Hyperliquid, right? Like Hyperliquid is the winner of trading of meme coins. Pump Fund is the winner of trading of meme coins, right? Like these are the people that really make serious money. So that infra stuff is good. That being said, like, you would have to know the next meta to know which infra applies to the next meta.
Sure.
However, like there were several quite good teams that pivoted into stuff and were doing much better. Like one that we backed was Wasabi, which started out as like NFT options and became a leveraged trading for meme coins. And like that was an example of just like if you back really good founders and really good team, like they're in a position to leverage the meta better. And so like that was just a really strong team. They had a good software development arm, et cetera. And like, they went from being a Blast app to now they're on Solana and some other stuff too. But just we're able to leverage some of the momentum of the industry. So I have no idea what the next meta is. I'll be completely honest with you and transparent. I think anyone who tells you that they know it for sure is like, I don't know. They're on some shit. Like maybe they know, but like no one can know, right? And so I think like it's prudent right now to watch and wait, and that's my view of it. But also like keep the ear on the ground because as soon as the new meta reveals itself, like you have a month. Right? Like you have a month where it's super obvious what the new meta is and it's still worth like participating in. Like that was like December, right? Like December of last year was like, that was the month, the 1 month window where everyone's like, all right, this cycle is just fucking meme coins. And then like,
you're right.
You could still make money, right? Anyone who was like, this cycle is still meme coins in like January, it became much harder to make money knowing that.
Yeah, the trade became like really oversubscribed and really congested. I think an interesting point that you brought up as well, and obviously applying to Orange Cap Games and what you're doing with Moonbirds is these 2 camps of platforms or, people that are building the picks and shovels, if you will. So the pump.funds of the world, the Hyperliquids are a great example, but also the platform as a brand, I think is really interesting because that enables you to be nimble and play across a variety of different platforms and really take advantage of the metas as they appear while you're continuing to grow the brand itself. I'm curious to that end. Maybe we'll skip around a little bit. How has that kind of informed your thinking on Orange Cap Games overall, and how you're looking to build that brand and maybe talk a little bit about the genesis of like Vibes and how you're thinking about it?
Yeah. So I mean, I think like what Orange Cap Games itself has been evolving, right? Like for a very long time, Orange Cap Games and Vibes were pretty synonymous in people's heads, right? Like Vibes was the only product made by Orange Cap Games, and so therefore like they're one and the same. I think like what we've done with Orange Cap Games is make a really good product. Like we have a team based out of Asia that just does manufacturing. That's like our employees, right? And so in the TCG space, like forget crypto for a second. In the TCG, it's one of the most well-made products on the market, period, right? And if you don't believe me, go get a pack, feel the cards, feel the tensility.
I can vouch for that.
Like
100%.
Like we way overdeveloped it for what we didn't need to have gone that hard, but we decided to. And so we're in conversations with other games for just manufacturing of them. Like we're in we made our own paper stock. Like that's a whole thing, and I could go on a 3-hour rant about paper stock and trading card games, but we did a lot of that kind of legwork just to be in a good position to like do different types of activations with different types of partners. Were we out there being like, all right, having our own IP is imminent? I think it's something that like kind of has always made sense for us to have. But we had to be choosy. Like we've been offered other, NFT IPs, other IPs outside of it. And this is just the one that made sense. Right. So like for me, growing Orange Cap Games to be sort of just like a platform that we play within, is really important. In terms of kind of the different worlds within Orange Cap Games, obviously, Vibes has had a lot of traction. We just had our championships like 2 weeks ago. I think there was 138 players in paper playing that. It was a lot of fun. It's at Star City Games Con Hartford. There's a lot of traction there. Sold a ton of that product. Really active player base. I think there's over 350,000 games played since December of last year. So quite a lot of player excitement. The game is really good. That being said, like the thing that's most important to me about Orange Cap Games as a platform is that like Orange Cap Games needs to be known as a company that does just incredible execution, right? And like it should be to the point where you see an Orange Cap Games product coming into the market and you're like, oh, well, of course it's going to be great because it's them, right? I think that's where we want to be, and that's kind of the vision. Because with that platform, you can kind of do whatever you want, right? Like I think in Web 2, like Mischief does this really well. Where like they've made sneakers, right? They made probably like it's controversial. They made one of the most important sneakers of the last couple of years in the Big Red Boot, right? Like now, are they a shoe company? Like not even really, right?
No.
They did a collab with Magic the Gathering. They've also made trading cards. Like, are they a trading card company? Like no. Like what are they? There's a bunch of people who are known for doing cool and wacky stuff that like is high quality, right? I think at the end of the day, like that's, I mean, and speaking of like Doodles, right? Like this is, I think one thing that you guys have executed really well is like, all right, like if I know a Doodles graphic or physical item is coming, there's a certain quality bar that I would be absolutely shocked if it didn't hit, right? And you guys have always delivered at or above that quality bar. And like, I think that's very good for reputation, right? I think we looked at like, misses, right? Azuki had that reputation for a while. I think I talked about this on every podcast you go on, that like the Azuki Twin Flames jacket, the silk embroidered, all that kind of stuff is like,
yeah,
it's just like so much of what Azuki was because of that jacket, I believe. You can disagree with me or not, but I believe that. And like you see the opposite side of that, where when Elementals came out, they really lost that sort of like perception of everything they do is great. And so, like again, that's the difficult thing, because it's so hard to build and so easy to lose, is the perception of quality of stuff that you do. But also, like just what we're able to do with our own IP, it is so substantial, and we're excited about it. That being said, like we also still like work with Pudgy IP. We'll continue to work with other IPs. Like it's not going to be exclusively, it's just whatever is good for us and whatever grows the platform. There's some other, partnerships, deals we're working on. We're like other products that are already in distribution where we just kind of take over manufacturing. A key point for us in a lot of those deals would be like, if we're manufacturing a game, the packaging needs to have the Orange Cap Games logo on it. Like that's a part of it for me, because like I'm only manufacturing it if we're all agreement about quality standards and we're going to meet those, and then B, like you want me to put my name on it because I want to make sure that it has those, but like C, like I want you to have it because I want you to know how important this is to me. And so like, even like if you're like, oh, like how does that benefit the ecosystem? Like, dude, obviously it benefits the ecosystem. Like the more that we can do and the more that we can grow within crypto and outside of crypto, like it's just like, it just has to be good for all the things that we touch.
Yeah, agreed. And for anyone who hasn't played Vibes yet, I can fully vouch for the quality and also the ease of use of playing. As someone who had never played before, you put on these phenomenal events. Was that one at Basel this year where you get someone to come over and kind of explain the rules of the game. And I was playing within like 5 minutes and ended up playing for an hour. So it's pretty remarkable. I guess to that end, I'm really curious, how you think about growth for Orange Cap games overall and like how Vibes and Moonbirds fit into that. Do you think outside of TCGs, are you squarely focused on trading card games? Like how are you thinking about it?
No, I mean, I think we think outside of TCGs all the time, right? Like I think that like really I see like Moonbirds and Vibes as their own brand sitting under each their own brand sitting under the OCG umbrella. Obviously like we've demonstrated that we're quite good at trading cards, right? We're really good at that. For those of you listening along, there are 3 uncut sheets of trading card games hanging behind me. Like I really like trading cards. But like there's other types of products, that we're exploring. And like, currently for Vibes, like we designed a full game, we steward competitive play, we steward a full online game. I don't think that we're looking to do that level of stewardship with another TCG at the same time. Like that seems like a bad idea. Right. So, like we're looking like where Vibes is right now is we have a really good product and all of our focus is on growth of the player base and continual releases of like expansions frequently, right? Like there's some cadence of expansion release that's really important. And then like, how do you grow and market this product? We know this product sells when placed in front of the right people and presented in the right way. So how do we just present it to the right people and put it in front of them the right way more frequently, right? Like that's where Vibes is at. Moonbirds, like we got this shit a week ago. Like literally like we signed the deal on Thursday, announced it on Friday. And like, that was 1 week ago. So like, actually 1 week plus a couple days. So like Moonbirds is not at that point, right? Moonbirds is much earlier. So Moonbirds right now is like a couple of things. I've said this before. 0th goal for Moonbirds is reactivate the community. Like one of the points of acquiring Moonbirds is like there's this incredible Moonbirds community that existed in the past and exists, to some point, even at the point where we acquired them. Many of whom are coming back out of the woodworks or even just are reignited in their passion recently, right? So reignite the community is step 0. Super important. Can't do anything until you've done that. If your internal stakeholders are not your biggest advocates, then nobody's going to be. Step 2 is grow the platform. So, like we inherited, a Twitter account with 250,000 followers, and all the history of Moonbirds in terms of like where they are in the like all-time volume rankings of NFTs. Like there's 350,000 ETH traded of them. Like we've inherited some interesting stuff, but also like what IP looks and growth looks like today is very different than it did when Moonbirds were at its peak, right? One of the first things that we did was we launched a Telegram announcements channel. That Telegram announcements channel, we launched it, I think on Thursday of last week. We're up to 16,288 subscribers in the Telegram announcements channel, right? I think of Telegram in many ways as like, okay, we were on Twitter, now we're also on Telegram, right? We have a daily newsletter we send out from our website, moonbirds.com, that people can subscribe to. It just has updates on everything going on in crypto. Like we're growing that mailing list, right? You should expect to see in the coming weeks, like growing Instagram, Giphy, TikTok, YouTube, just like one of my visions of this space is that like, for an IP to grow, like we need to grow outside of the bubble on Twitter. So like there's more platform building that needs to go. While that's going on, we're in development for a couple of products. We're sort of still figuring out exactly locking out details, getting quotes, figuring out timelines, roadmaps on there. But like, you should expect collectibles products coming from the Moonbirds ecosystem that are made by us to that quality. Is it exactly TCG? I don't know. We'll see. We have a couple of different irons in the fire, but like that takes, weeks to months of development, manufacturing, et cetera. So I wouldn't say that, is coming, in the next couple of days, right? That's like for us to develop something to our quality standards, like it's going to take some time, not infinite time, but some time. And so, we're really excited, like in the next couple of months, like we're going to hit that moment where we have all of our R&D starting to like mature to a point where we can ship stuff. And then you'll really get to see kind of what the product side of this looks like. But, especially with the Moonbirds IP in a different way than Vibes, right? Like Vibes has to be a product because we don't own the IP. Like another thing that we've been looking at Moonbirds is like partnerships with other people in a kind of similar way. We're on the other side of the coin. We're like, there are people that want to do things with the Moonbirds IP that we think is interesting, where we don't necessarily have to be the publisher or developer of the product they're doing. Now, of course, we still have very high quality standards, but like that's a type of opportunity that exists for Moonbirds that maybe is a little bit different from how it exists for Vibes, right? So we're still kind of navigating that complexity. The other thing, I think this is very interesting, which is like, on the Vibe side, like we don't use AI for any of our art, any of that kind of stuff. Like we're very traditional, like everything's hand drawn. For Moonbirds, like I think one of the things that's really interesting about who that community is, right? Moonbirds is a community of people who are, what attracted them to NFTs? Like they come from a podcast audience from Kevin Rose, right? And like it's people who were attracted to NFTs because NFTs at the time felt like the forefront of technology. I think they've matured. I'm going to call it maturity now, where I don't think the NFTs today feel like the forefront of technology, right? It's different. Today, the forefront of technology, if you go to Silicon Valley, everyone's talking about AI, right? And so one of the things that we've really leaned into is like, what's interesting about owning an NFT project in 2025 that's different than owning it in 2021 or 2022 is like, you're owning an IP and you have this insane IP enablement tool. That's how I see it in AI that just like exists. And so one of the first things that we did, really the first thing we did when we took over the Discord was upskill our own community to AI generate things of their birds. And we've been doing these activations where everyone sort of copies different like prompts and has their bird in various versions of images and like floods Twitter with them. And that is a very intentional way to enable the community to use AI to drive more growth in a way that we don't have to sit on top of, be the only stewards of IP. And also, like, I think one of the things that is nice about kind of doing what I'm calling a hard reset on the Moonbirds IP is like a lot of brands' hesitation to really lean into AI is like, well, like there's some subset of our audience that's really not going to like that, or like, what if this is a fad and it goes away, and we just like the base that we're starting from in terms of risks is much lower, right? Like, right. Fair. Like, if that's the case, then like this probably isn't the product for you anymore, right? Like it was our collector's PFP, like it's a very different thing now. But I think that there's enough people that, and AI is good enough now that like owning that lane of like being, the IP that sits itself at the forefront of the AI IP revolution, I think I'm making a bet that that's going to pay dividends, right? That to me is, I don't know exactly how AI manifests in crypto. I think a lot of people are thinking about agents and some other stuff. But I do know that AI enables IP. And so, if you talk about where do you want to be on the cutting edge of what drives the next cycle, like AI will only ever become a more dominant part of the discourse, and it will only ever become better. Like it's not getting worse. And so, and even in the last 2 months, like the ability for it to maintain the base character has drastically improved, right? Like that was always a problem with AI, is you feed a character in and it would give you something that didn't really look like it. Well, now it doesn't do that, right? And so the opportunity set that you have to do cool things and really rally a community around that. And not only, and again, like we're not planning to use AI in products, right? And like, especially physical products, but the ability for people to, take their PFP and make it into Goku going, this is my final form, or Ratatouille cookie. Like it's just so easy and such a powerful enablement tool that like, one of the fun things about owning an IP in 2025, I think, is the ability to use AI to grow it.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree. And we're taking similar bets. And it's been really cool to see all of the AI generated Moonbirds all over my timeline. I'm curious, as you kind of touch on a few different areas of focus with Moonbirds, whether it's developing and growing the community to looking at collectibles and various things to be able to release in products. How are you, if at all, defining what Moonbirds is as a brand? Is it a lifestyle brand? Is it a character brand? Like how are you thinking about like what that North Star looks like for Moonbirds?
Yeah, so I think like it's that conversation is still ongoing. It's something we've been talking about all week since we acquired it. I don't think we're going to come to a conclusion, within a week or two, or it's going to be an ongoing question. I think there's a few driving principles. One is like, I think historically Moonbird's brand, like if you read a lot of their lore Bibles and brand guide, was like there's this concept of the dread, and the dread is always following the Moonbirds, and they're trying to escape the dread. And this is a concept that we're moving away from. We've been very clear about that. Like I think it's very emblematic of where the community may have been personally in the past. And so I think energy and enthusiasm will just win out. It's just positive brands tend to do better. Excitement. I think we're leaning into it being pretty hype beasty. And I think we're also leaning it to be kind of edgy. Like, I think that's one of the things that, obviously Pudgy is very family friendly, kid friendly, and that kind of stuff. Like, I grew up on Adult Swim. Like, I don't know how else to put that, but like I think there's something that I was thinking about with like Domo, where like Domo was an IP that was like very hype beasty and cute, but you wouldn't call it children's. And like, I can't tell you exactly why, but like it is that. And like, you think about like Bored Ape IP is like, okay, like it's like edgy forward. Like it's edgy and obviously edgy. Like nothing about it's not edgy, right? And then I think we're like, we're looking for moonbirds to say is in between the two, where it's like, it's cute, but if you look hard enough, like it's edgy, right? Like we did our fundraising announcement post, and like the image that I tweeted out was like my moonbird as the cover of The Wolf of Wall Street, like with all the like naked clowns in the background and stuff. Like, it's a little bit different. I don't know. It's hype beasty. How else can you put it?
Yeah, I think that juxtaposition is something we talk about a lot internally as well, because you want it to be a bit unexpected, right? You're scrolling you just think of your audience like scrolling the timeline, and they're like, wait, I wasn't expecting like that bird in that position, like that bird it being in this like Wolf of Wall Street position. I think is something that like captivates people and keeps them hooked and interested, and it's something new. So that makes a lot of sense to me, and the also the concept of it being iterative, right? Like it's been a couple of weeks for you guys, and seeing like as you're continuing to ship. But yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say like a thing that's interesting too is like collectibles age demographic is going up, right? Like there's this interesting thing happening. There's two trends in the world right now. One is collectibles age demographic is going up. When you think of Pokemon cards being for kids, not true at all. Prime demographic right now for Pokemon cards is 25 to 35. That's the main people buying, because it's like nostalgic for their childhood, has money, doesn't have childhood. How do you re-get the feelings of that like through Pokemon cards, right? You also have like the demographic spending in luxury stores coming down very substantially. It used to be like who bought Gucci, Louis Vuitton, like those kind of things was like older adults with disposable income. I mean, the average age of a buyer at Louis Vuitton, I think, is down 20 years in the last 10 years. Like it's actually like this really substantial, and that's why you see Gucci, Louis Vuitton becoming a lot more hype beasty, right? They're doing collabs with more relevant, like it's not as stodgy and kind of, like stodgy is the wrong word. It's not as like, oh, I'm an adult, I own Gucci. It's like, I'm a hype BC, drop shipper in Miami, I own Gucci. Like this is like the convergence of those two trends is like hype beastie collectibles are hitting this like same demographic, which is like the luxury spend, and hype beast and like collectible spend is like converging on this 25 to 35 age demographic, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. We see it as well. And I mean, to your point of like, you look at the creative directors of these fashion houses, they're now speaking to, they used to be streetwear. So whether it's like Virgil, now Pharrell, like people that speak directly to culture and people our age, it's happening across the board. So no, we definitely see that. Well, I'm curious, kind of like going a little bit maybe further on moonbirds, if just because it's so fresh and new, and obviously you just did the seed round. I'm curious what the like high level pitch was to investors. I think NFTs have gone through a few interesting cycles at this point, and I think there's largely been a lot of questions as to like what even is the business model of an NFT brand. And you're seeing different brands take it in different ways. Yeah,
the seed round actually happened before the acquisition, so almost no one, except for obviously Yuga Labs, but like almost no one knew that they were investing in in a parent company of Moonbirds when they did the investment.
No way.
So, we just announced it after the fact, because obviously like Yuga was in the round and people would have asked a lot of questions about why Yuga was in the round before it. And so it just made timing wise, it made sense to announce it now. But yeah, no, we haven't really had conversations with investors since this happened. Obviously like we talked to all of our existing investors after it happened. I think a lot of them were really excited. 1KX being, I think, probably it's fair to say, and I'm obviously a little biased, but like, if not the preeminent investor in consumer crypto right now is 1KX. I mean, there's not that many funds in the industry that are of their size and stature, and the subset of those that also do consumer is even smaller, right? So, they're incredible backers of ours. And we're always excited to work with that team because they just get it. and they see the vision of like product led, growth. So they were ecstatic about it. They were super excited. And yeah.
No, that's super interesting. So I guess even it's so fascinating that they didn't even know about moonbirds. To that end, like what was the high level pitch of Orange Cap Games of how you're thinking of growing beyond just trading collectibles to kind of being this like collection of brands?
Yeah, I mean, so I think you have to look at like what Vibes is and was. Like Vibes is one of the only products in crypto to really break out outside of crypto, right? Like the Star City Games tour, which Vibes is on, which is like who hosts the competitive scene for Vibes. It's only Magic the Gathering, Disney Lorcana, Flesh and Blood, Star Wars Unlimited, and the 5th game is Vibes that they've ever added. So like it's not a small feat to get on that circuit. You know, we've done partnerships with eBay. I think we're the 19th most graded game on CGC ever, a TCG on CGC ever. Like, and we came out in December, right? Like there's a lot of pretty crazy metrics in the TCG world, and a lot of our players in our community are like not crypto native, or like have crypto but not crypto native in like the CT degen way that you might think of. So, and a company in under a year doing $1.5 million in revenue, like in crypto, we're all like wonked out of what like real metrics are. Like that's actually quite a lot of revenue to have done in that period of time for any company. And so, what we were demonstrating and being able to do, like not many people can do. Like the other thing is like taking a TCG from like idea to market in 8 months is unheard of. Like industry standard is like 2 to 3 years and like 3 to 5 times as much capital as we spent on it, right? So like, even if you just look at it as a pure CPG brand, which it's not, like there's more to it, but even if you just look at it like that, like the numbers are really good, right? Like we had like, I think it was like 1,700 attendees to our launch event in, Token 2049, there's a very real and very active like player base around this game. And so in a way that like we usually don't see that often in crypto, right? Like a lot of GameFi in crypto is like fake numbers first, game later, right? Like we took the opposite approach. And so, I think a lot of the like savvy consumer investors were just like, all right, well, we want to back something real. This is real. Like, I think we said this in the announcement that like Orange Cap Games is a believe in something brand. And, like Vibes was the flagship product. The idea to grow OCAP as a platform, I think made sense. Like, as I said, like we're already in conversations. So they're Web 2 conversations that take longer, but like with other brands to manufacture their games, like there's just like a very niche and funny thing is that like printing and manufacturing trading card games, if you want to make yourself a trading card game, it is very, very hard to do. And of the subset of people that have done it, like we've done it really, really well, really, really fast in a way that we are not one of the 3 people that everybody goes to do it usually that are very expensive and have long lead times. So like our ability to enter the trading card space and be a meaningful player in the like printing and manufacturing business is actually like quite substantial.
Yeah, it's remarkable. It's been really cool to see the journey from concept to it being live to now being enjoyed all over the world. I'm curious the growth outside of Web3. Like, how did you plan that strategy? How did you really like jump into mainstream adoption? I know you spoke a little bit about being added to the circuit. Like, what did that playbook look like?
Yeah, so I mean, I think like there's this really cool playbook, especially in collectibles. So a thing that's like important to know about TCG is there's a lot of people that in trading cards, like there's a lot of overlap between crypto and trading cards, right? So obviously Mt. Gox, the first ever, crypto exchange was Magic the Gathering online exchange. That's what Mt. Gox stood for. Obviously famous rug for exploit or whatever, but like the history are interwoven. And I'm going to make the argument, this is also part of how I fell into crypto, was just like, if you've gotten over in your head spending 10 grand on a piece of cardboard, like getting over your head spending 10 grand on a JPEG is like not that big of a leap, right? And so,
totally.
But a lot of like I have some friends in crypto where like the way that they think in trading cards, where the way they think about crypto is like, yeah, I have like my fake internet money, and when it goes up in price, I trade it for my cardboard. When my cardboard goes up in price and my fake internet money goes down, I'll trade my cardboard for my fake internet money. So like, and the number of people that I know that did that trade, which is like buy crypto, like when it crashes, wait for it to rip, use it to buy trading cards. When crypto crashes again, sell the trading cards to buy crypto. And like, that was just like a generational trade. If you did that trade like that, and quite candidly, like in December of 21, when I was selling my JPEGs, like that's what I was buying. I was selling my JPEGs to cash and using the cash to buy trading cards. Like, like this is like generally what, and like what, everyone was doing. And so like all of the trading card industry folk know that a lot of their, and the prices are pretty correlated. Like you'll see correlation between the movement of the price of Bitcoin and Ethereum and the price of like expensive trading cards at the highest end. And so like, what does a lot of the outside world view crypto as? It's like this affluent consumer audience that is like a perfect fit for their demographic of their high spend, they're affluent, this kind of thing, right? So they really want the crypto audience, right? And so in many ways, when we go to these partners, it's a trade. It's like, we'll bring the crypto audience to your platform, but you gotta give me the non-crypto audience that you have, right? And like, that's the kind of behind the scenes conversation that goes on. In trading cards, it's a pretty easy sell because they come from trading card world where everyone has a trading card audience and nobody has a crypto audience. We come from crypto world where everyone has a crypto audience and nobody has a trading card audience. So like, guns and butter, baby. Like it's a great trade. And like it was crazy. Like when the Sketch Bunkus sold for $5,000 or the Sketch Primo Wizard for 4,500, like that's how much like an original Charizard costs. Like that's not like small amounts of money in the TCG realm. So that definitely turned some heads. Like there's real organic volume. And also like, it's just cute. Like people liked it. Like we did a good job on the product. So there's that. A lot of distributors too and retailers, like it's really hard to get Pokemon cards right now. One of the things that we've done recently is we've expanded to like bodegas in New York at the checkout counter. If you go and you want to get some deli sandwiches or whatever, like for a bodega to get real Pokemon cards, impossible. Not possible to get it wholesale. They're great though. Like they have counter space, the checkout space, people walk by it. It's a great point of purchase. Like Pokemon being as in demand as it is and as hard to get as it is right now opens a lot of doors for places that can't have it. TCG is just having a moment. So yeah, it's a really exciting time in the trading card industry right now. And also like, I mean, the fundamental is like the game is just really good, right? Like none of this would be possible if the game was bad, but like a lot of our strongest advocates are people who sit down and play the game like, oh, it's actually really good, right? And every time you release a crypto-related product in like another realm, right? Like we always had some comments like, oh, like this is NFT related, therefore it's a scam, right? Like there's always gonna be someone who says that. And I think like having physical tangible cards was like our big unlock. Like so many crypto trading card games are digital only. I think it's a huge mistake. All the traditional players that have reach because they make money buying and selling cards. So you need physical cards to partner with the people that have reach to do that. And also like someone who's going to sit there and be like, oh, it's an NFT thing, therefore it's dumb. As soon as you put a card in their hand and they sit down and they play, they're way over that objection. Like it's the easiest objection to handle with a physical card and it's impossible without one.
To that end, do you think, or are you currently integrating anything on chain with Vibes?
So yeah, so we have rewards on chain with Vibes right now. We'll probably in the future do more stuff on chain with Vibes. It's something that we've, not communicated externally. It's something that we've thought about and developed concepts of. I think the thing with on chain is you have to get it right, and it has to be at a moment where you're big enough and it really matters. Because like the thing about on chain is like you can't walk it back. You can't like right. It's out there forever. So there's a certain amount of growth that we need to see where like the on chain components to Vibes just like don't matter if Vibes isn't a huge thing. If Vibes is a huge thing, then it doesn't matter the timing for when you bring things on chain. Right? So like the only thing that matters is make Vibes a huge thing. And so like when we do the on-chain components, we have to do them right. It's a lot of time, energy, attention. Like there's just a lot of stuff that will go into that. Like there's no rush to do it right now because like the game is big, don't get me wrong, but it could be bigger. And so until it's bigger, there's no need to do it.
To that end, like what does growth look like on Vibes maybe? And then we'll wrap it up at the top of the hour here.
Yeah. So that's a good question. Like, what do you mean by what does growth look like?
Yeah. Like what does success look like? Like, is it expanding into more of these circuits? Is it trying to broaden your retail distribution? Is it expanding into other forms of media, like a la Pokemon trading card to video game to all sorts of other things? Like or is it staying squarely in TCGs? Like what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think really what growth looks at is like having some breakout moments, right? More distribution is always really important. Like there's certainly many, many types of distribution we haven't conquered yet for the game. I think what I think of growth is like, does each release progressively have more demand overall for the product, right? Is the player base continuing to grow? Is each release continuing to grow the player base, et cetera? You know, when we look at what growth is, it's just better marketing, better communications. Again, this we need like even with Vibes, like we need to do more marketing off of Twitter, especially. Like that's something that we're gearing up to do more of. Like it's very TikTok friendly. TCG content is, so that's one of our next growth vectors, is expanding to TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Shorts, this kind of things. And so, you know, just finding more ways to have cultural moments related to Vibes, I think is really, really important. We historically really focused on like the competitive gamer scene, because that's where I come from. But like a big thing that we talk about internally is like, how do you expand more to families, to, we call it like the playground market, like where I grew up on Pokemon, like in my lunchbox, right? Like how do you get Vibes in kids' lunchboxes? Like just learning how to market to that consumer demographic is like not native to me, right? So we've been having a lot more conversations with professionals and people who know how to do those kind of things, of how do you expand and market to those demographics. You know, I think a big unlock for us recently, we've done a lot of specialty retail, so a lot of game stores. But really thinking about like these, again, I talked about bodegas, vending machines, like how do you put Vibes cards in a place where they're not sitting next to Pokemon cards? They tend to sell better, right? I think that's like a thing of like, where is actually the best place to present these to people? Like there is no, like you can't go to the next SCG circuit. Like there is no next SCG circuit, right? Like that is the top in North America that there is. We could go internationally, like there's some international growth we want to do and that kind of stuff. But like we did a really good job getting the, like, I call it like sweaty gamer demographic. We need to go out and get like the playground market, the families. Like there's a lot of other demographics that we need to go market to better. Because like, you know, and this is the difference between like who is the consumer demographic for Flesh and Blood versus who is the consumer demographic for Pokemon. Totally different people, right? Flesh and Blood is very competitive, sweaty gamer driven. Pokemon, you know, do people even play that game? Like unclear, right?
Do you have a sense, just to that end, of like your core demographic for Vibes right now? Like how many people, what is that overlap of like people who are just collecting the cards versus actually playing the game?
Yeah, so I would say it's probably 65, 35. 65% collecting the game, 35% playing the game.
Wow. How does that compare to other TCGs? I'm so curious.
So Pokemon is like 97% collecting, 3% playing. Magic is like the opposite. It's like 97% playing, 3% collecting. That's been changing. Like, so Flesh and Blood is like 100% playing. Nobody collects Flesh and Blood, like just for collecting purposes. I shouldn't say nobody. 99-1, right? Magic has been really was like, I would say 99-1 in the past. It's been trending away from that recently with, you know, stuff like the One Ring and the Lord of the Rings collab, their Assassin's Creed collab. Like that's going a lot more the other way. Sports cards is obviously 100% collector's market. But like, you know, One Piece is another big one. That's probably similar to us. Like probably like 65-35 is where I would put One Piece. In terms of like collector 65, player 35.
Yeah.
But it's also, it's tough to say because like, it's really a different number if you think about it, like as in, like I'm thinking about this in like, in terms of like units of purchase, not in units of people. Like there might actually be more people that play Vibes, but the players spend on cards is much lower. Like one collector will buy like 100 boxes and keep it in a closet, right? And like a player that plays 1,000 hours might spend 1/100th that amount of money, right? Which is, but like that's not a bad thing because you need both. Like my view is like,
right,
your collectors like want there to be players, and your players want there to be collectors because this is like a healthy ecosystem, right? Yeah.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I had never thought about the breakout of collectors versus players and what it would look like across genre. That's super fascinating. Well, I want to be respectful of your time. We're coming up at the top of the hour. I wanted to ask you, the name of the pod is From Scratch, and so we're bringing a lot of builders from the space to really kind of like give their playbooks. If they were a young entrepreneur in the space, you know, what sort of advice would they give them? So I'll give you the floor. You have obviously built a bunch of different companies at this point, and yeah, I'll leave it with you.
Yeah, so I would say like who you do things with is like 10x more important than what you're doing, almost always. One of the hardest balances to get right is experts versus people who don't know anything. you just hire experts, like they'll make all the same mistakes that everyone else made. If you hire people who don't know what they're doing, they don't have inhibitions to do the wrong thing, but there's like a balance. You can't have an entire team of people who don't know what they're doing, and you can't have an entire team of experts. And if you find someone who's really, really good at the thing they do, just like you don't hesitate to bring them on their team. Like you always consider yourself a 7 and don't be afraid to hire 10s. And like you should be really aggressive about who you hire. Like that's the thing that basically the only thing that matters. Other things matter too. The other thing I would say too is like big decisions tend to be like when you're thinking about small decisions, they should be very math driven. Like this is my ROI. This is like, but like the bigger a decision is, the harder it is to like to make the right decision or to give yourself a framework to decide if it's right or not. And the more you just need to shoot from the hip. Like people have asked me a lot, like, why did you acquire moonbirds? If I were to make a decision matrix of like acquire moonbirds or don't acquire moonbirds, like this would just be so infinitely complex. Like at some point you just have to be like, yeah, because I just fucking wanted to acquire moonbirds. You know, I don't know what else to tell you, man. Like that's just what it is. And so, you know, just being true with yourself about like I've seen a lot of like entrepreneurs talk themselves out of decisions that felt right because they tried to do math around something you shouldn't be doing math around, right? Like there is no math to do around what is the expected value of acquiring moonbirds. Like it's just way too complicated. There's just infinitely too many variables. How much math should I do about switching from this, you know, service provider to that service provider? That you have there's an answer, but like you shouldn't be doing math to things that don't have a math answer. You should just be, and like I think calibrating like when shooting from the hip is correct versus not correct is like a very, very, very important thing. And the last thing I'll say too is if you're a young entrepreneur, the like only skill you should be developing is prompting. Like the better that you can utilize AI tools and understand how the nuances of each of them and how you can do like there are no other skills in my mind right now. Especially that will be relevant like 5 years.
That's a strong mic drop. No, I wholeheartedly agree. Where I think everyone should be like leaning in fully to figure out how to improve their prompting every day. So Spencer, this has been awesome. Long overdue, my friend. We'll have to catch up in person soon, but thanks so much for the time today.
Anytime for you. See, bringing it full circle.
All right. Well, you very, very well done. Tricks of the trade. All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you next time.
All right.